We'll call the Troy Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, October 23rd to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. McGarry.
Here.
Mr. Wolke.
Here.
Mrs. Ehrlich.
Here.
Mr. Titterington. Mr. Westmeyer.
Here.
Mayor Oda.
Here.
Mr. Emmerich.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. The minutes from the October 9th meeting and the public hearing will be ready for us at the next meeting. We'll proceed then on down to the business. Downtown Riverfront Overlay District application for West Franklin Street for exterior alterations. Does staff have a report?
Yeah, so this is really two separate processes. This is the second reading of the DRO and then a certificate of appropriateness for the exterior modifications. The reason why we include both was because if the DRO doesn't get approved, the COA, they would not want to undertake the COA. So this would be to allow for three 1,500 square feet condo units. I did provide all of those specific lot dimensions in that first discussion paragraph. The application does meet the stated purpose of the DRO. This is really an adaptive reuse of nearly 5,000 square feet of a building with about 1,500 square feet of livable space in each of the three units. Going into the COA, they're really proposing to paint the cornice and porch on both the Franklin Street side and Plum Street side white. The fish scales or scalloped gable ends on the Plum Street elevation will be painted the Sherwin-Williams slate tile, which is like a blue-gray color, and all of those colors are in the packet as well. They are looking at doing new doors and windows. So based upon the criteria in section 1143.25 Q1C used to determine the merits of the DRO application, it is requested that Planning Commission provide a positive recommendation to City Council for the proposed DRO application, and then staff does recommend approval of the COA as it does comply with the design manual. And that'll conclude my report.
Okay, thank you, Austin. Okay, in accordance with the requirements of the DRO, Planning Commission will be holding a public hearing concerning this application. We'd ask that anybody that has desires to speak that they approach the podium, give your full name and address, and we would like to have you hold your comments to 3 minutes. And if there's anything additional that you need to submit, written comments or whatever, you can submit those also to the clerk. Are there any, with the public hearing starting, is there any comments from the public on the rezoning?
On the DRO.
DRO, excuse me. Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Thank you. Okay, does Commission have any comments, questions for staff, or recommendations?
I have a question, Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Austin, so is the sale on this house complete now, so Sam O'Neill is the official owner?
I believe it's contingent on the zoning approval.
Oh, okay, all right. And we're only approving the paint color at this time?
No, so we're approving the 3 lots to be created and the exterior modifications of the paint colors and the windows and doors.
So because of the DRO, he doesn't have to show the kinds of windows that he's using or anything
those
like
windows
that?
were included in the supplemental information in the packet.
I see them in there. I just don't remember that we really discussed the windows like we've discussed some of the other windows downtown.
These, the reason for that is the existing windows are exceedingly beyond repair.
Okay.
So
All
that's why.
That was the only question I had.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, entertain a motion, and this would be a recommendation for approval by council.
Only on the DRO.
On the DRO, yes.
So moved. I'll make a second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for a positive recommendation? Yes, for a positive recommendation. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Wolke?
Yes.
Mrs. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Westmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Emmerich?
Yes.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
The recommendation is approved.
Okay. Next item of business is a review of the city
Yeah.
beautification.
Now you have to,
On the COA, on the COA portion of the application.
the Historic District application, certificate of appropriateness on the application.
That's for full approval, right?
That is just by the commission for the, yes.
Okay. Stepping back, we need to take action then on the, certificate of appropriateness. Does the commission have a recommendation?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion to approve and second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Westmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Emmerich?
Yep.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wolke?
Yes.
The certificate of appropriateness is approved.
Thank you, Sue. Next item is a review of the City Beautification Committee's proposed plantings and color palette for 2025. I believe Ms. Gareth Johnson is going to present it.
Do I need to say my,
That microphone right there.
This?
Yes.
Gareth Johnson, City Beautification? I'm here to present Renee Levy, who has the palette for the colors for next year's downtown flowers for the ground and the baskets.
Okay, and you say my name? Renee Levy with Garden Stone Greenhouse. Proposing colors and plant material for next year. So next year we are changing up the color quite a bit. We're going to be using a bright orange, bright red, changing up some of the plant material, going from petunias to mandevilla and dipladenia, which is a large tropical-looking bloom. On the bridges, again, we will be using some petunias, but then we're going to be using some of the mandevilla, which will be peach, red, white, peach, red, and pink. They are very kind of aggressive, traily, viney plant. And then using some of the dipladenias, which is some reds, yellows in the urns that will be at each quadrant. Adding some bright orange sun patients around, and then underneath the urns downtown, instead of the petunias, we are going to do the orange and a berry blend lantana instead of a petunia for next year. So I think that's, and then we are going to add some sweet potato vine on Adams Street to some of the hanging baskets instead of just a plain petunia. So there'll be some lime greens, adding some accent to the begonias down by Hobart Arena. And I think that's sun patience is going to be out at Prouty in the ground there instead of using so much salvia. It just gets trampled there really bad. And so trying to use something that's a little more hardy won't be, when it gets trampled on, maybe it won't break off so bad. And the bright orange canna behind it, out here at the city building, it will be these colors, the oranges with petunias with mandevilla in it. The peach mandevilla, I've grown that now for 2 years. It's got that rich, deep red center, so I think it'll be such a great thing. We're just going to put those in hanging baskets with those colors. There's some other colors that are the peach and the pink and the red. I think it'll be a great pop of color, and they do great late into the fall. And so it's the hotter, the drier, the better. Don't love fertilizer, so I think that the guys will take good care of them. So Merchant Pots will all coordinate. So yeah, I think that's it.
Are there any questions?
Comments?
Well, my wife is on the beautification committee, and having discussed this with the law director, I will be abstaining.
I understand. I just have one quick question.
Sure.
Does this include the fountain square? Around the
It
fountain?
does not. Mercer,
The
yeah,
Mercer Group
does
does
that.
okay,
Yeah,
independently, okay.
yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question which is probably not relevant. Some of these flower arrangements have gotten really, really tall at the corners where you're trying to turn. Is anything going to be done to, particularly the one on Cherry Street at Mayflower, when you're trying to turn onto Main? It's really hard to see over it. Is anything going to be done to correct your sight line when you're driving.
So I'm happy to look at that. It's probably a different staff member, because it's in the right of way, but I'm happy to, get you an answer to that.
Otherwise, I want a low plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't have any question, but I wanted to thank you for your effort. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Downtown looks really
Okay,
good, so thank you.
Yeah,
It
thank
makes
you.
a big difference.
Okay,
Yeah,
All
the
right.
city always looks good, and we appreciate your efforts.
thank you.
You come and present that, and we just trust your judgment, so.
Well,
So
thank you.
far, your
I
judgment's been
love
pretty
doing
good,
it,
Jared.
so-
Pretty good.
So thank you for the opportunity to do it too, so. All right.
I will move to approve.
Second.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Roll call vote.
Mr. Westmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Emmerich?
Yep.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wolke?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Okay. The presentation of the colors is approved.
Okay. Okay, next item of business is consideration for approving the update to the comprehensive plan. At this point, it's up to the commission to approve it at this point. Before we get into making any decisions, are there any comments from the commission following the public hearing and the submission of comments?
Well, as I've indicated in several meetings, I'm very concerned about the emphasis on increasing our population through increasing the density in the city. The prevalent opinion seems to be that in order to attract and retain business and industry, you have to provide affordable housing inside of the city of Troy. Excuse me. When I came to Troy in 1992, there were 2 spec houses in the entire city. Steve Weaver, the city engineer, was building one of them, and I bought the other one. Despite this obvious housing shortage, we were very successful during the 1990s in bringing in business and industry. If my memory serves me correctly, we brought in 6,000 new jobs during that decade. On page 10 of the plan, it states that 82% of Troy's labor force commutes into the city for employment. Most of Troy's employed residents commute to destinations not in Troy or the immediate area. When I retired, I could have gone back to Cincinnati, where I was born and raised and educated, but I chose to stay here in Troy because of the quality of life here in Troy. I'm concerned that trying to fit more and more people into smaller and smaller spaces is going to adversely affect that quality of life.
Thank you, Larry. Is there any other comments or questions for staff? The only comment that I wanted to offer was we received written comments from representatives from the Troy Historical Preservation Alliance. I believe Mr. Titterington provided responses to that. I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions on that. What impressed me was some of the points are well taken. Some of them are beyond the purveyor of the Planning Commission, but nothing in the plan itself precludes any of these activities or involvements that were outlined in the comments that were provided. So I don't necessarily see where there's a negative. It looks like it's business which can continue and probably should continue.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to be noted, although I was absent last Wednesday at the public meeting, I have seen the entire video, and I have studied the plan, and I listened to what was being presented that night.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any other comments or from the commission?
I'll ask, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place to do that. Would you like to speak, Matt, to Mr. Wolke's concern?
Yeah, I can just provide a few of our thoughts as we were developing the plan with what we heard from the community and also what went into that. I think your point's well taken about making sure that certain zoning districts that we talked about a week ago are sort of protected from the densification. We're really talking about in a few specific zoning districts where we think it makes sense, mostly kind of downtown mixed-use areas when we're talking about increasing relative densities. And the other thing, it wasn't just about jobs. We heard a lot from the community at large that, you know, their kids want to move back to town and they can't find housing that they can afford. And so all of those were our recommendations in response to a myriad of comments, not just the jobs workforce issue. So that would be the only thing I would offer for consideration.
If this plan is adopted, how bound are we when we look at zoning codes and, well, particularly zoning codes, to follow the recommendations of the plan?
We're bound in the sense that we've outlined character districts, and then the zoning is really where we get into the detail of the densities, the lot areas, all those for each individual character district. So we're not so much bound as in that the comp plan is here to just guide that decision, and more importantly, where we think those uses make sense in the future, through the future land use map, but the real details will be coming through the zoning, or the UDC update as we continue to work through that. So there's still time to think through all that and review that as part of that effort as well.
I would also add that we've looked at the close-net factor, so that if there's certain areas that we are increasing the density, then that developer would then potentially be adding other quality of life amenities in other areas of the city to offset that factor.
In other words, we'll be looking at it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. Each zoning district as it gets developed will be considered basically all the densities as per each zoning district, if that makes sense.
Well, even though I do have suggestions, I will be voting in favor of the plan.
Go ahead.
I think we're all in favor of slow growth. We're not looking to just start packing people in and exploding tight-knit areas. I do want to see us grow. If we're not growing, then we're a dying city. And so I like that we are experiencing growth. And I share your concern about packing too many people into a smaller area. The suggestions are suggestions. Staff can kind of control that and can be discussed at the time something is being developed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd like to think of the comp plan side of this effort as we're providing the opportunities through policy guides and recommendations, but the real codification of the zoning ordinances is the legal mechanism for allowing or not allowing those things.
Does that help, Larry?
Yeah, and overall, I think it's a reasonable plan. And as I said at the public hearing, that I appreciate the fact that this was done in plain English that's understandable to everyone.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Were there any other questions for Matt?
Yeah, I think the only note I have, Chair, here is I'm relatively new to the Planning Commission, so when I came on board, I was not necessarily, I would say, previewed or indoctrinated in the previous comp plan. So I just want to make sure that, you know, as we come up with this plan, it is also kind of ingrained in the Planning Commission moving forward, that as members come on board, that they're encouraged and provided the resources to, you know, review things and the work that's been done over the last, 18 months, right? That really, as long as this has existed. So I just think that has to be, we can't just, have this plan and, put it in a link somewhere and forget about it. We got to make sure that, as we indoctrinate people and bring them on in these new roles, that they get walked through that by the appropriate parties.
I think it's comments well taken. Yeah, you become too familiar with it sometimes in staff level and while we're on Planning Commission. That was a very good point. Is there any action that the Commission wishes to take on this?
Well, I guess since I had the reservations, I'll make the motion to approve, or to make a positive recommendation to City Council.
No, it's approved by the Planning Commission.
It is approved by us.
Okay. Move to reapprove.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Emmerich?
Yes.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Mr. Wolke?
Yes.
Mr. Zerlich,
Yes.
Mr. Westmeyer.
Yes.
Comprehensive plan is approved by the planning commission.
Okay, we have an historical district application, certificate of appropriateness for 121 South Market Street, for exterior painting. Staff have a report.
Yes, sir. So this building was painted earlier this year, and then the new tenant, wishes to just change the storefront color of the burgundy, that's on page 3 of this section, to this purple color. So just, that's the only change. The main body color and the trim, main body's gray, trim color is black. That will stay the same, but that burgundy reddish color will be the purple color. And I can pass around the swatch if you'd like to see it.
I would.
Also, I just noticed when I was looking at this earlier, there are, the picture doesn't show any signs on this building. I forgot to take a look at it right before the meeting. Are there signs in the building also?
That will be probably at our next planning commission meeting.
Okay.
So,
So this is all being done for a remodel and new,
yeah, so they did the full remodel, the tenant's working on some finishing touches, and then the sign will be at our next meeting.
perfect, that explains it.
So with that, staff does recommend approval of the paint color. I'll conclude my report.
Well, I thank you for providing the chip, because it's hard to tell.
It is on the copy, I understand.
It's much prettier than it looks like.
It's lovely.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second.
Who did the second?
Pick your choice here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, your choice. Roll call, please.
Mr. Emmerich,
Yes.
Mr. McGarry,
Yes.
Mr. Wolke,
Yes.
Mrs. Zerlich,
Yes.
Mr. Westmeyer,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
The application is approved.
Okay, we have one item, for other business. You came up late. It's a approval of a sign at 123 South Market Street. Staff have a report.
Yes, sir. So this is a 27 square feet building sign. It does have 3-dimensional letters that are individually pin mounted. The main color of the sign is white. The lettering is black. So pretty straightforward in terms of the colors. And with that, staff does recommend approval of the proposed sign, as it does comply with the design manual and the sign code. That'll conclude my report.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions by the commission?
Is this what the sign's supposed to say?
Yes, sir.
Hold it, I have the pronunciation.
That's the name of the store.
Semoz Reme.
Okay.
There you go.
It's not misspelled, that's.
And the owner is in the audience.
Okay.
She sells toys.
As long as somebody can pronounce it, I'll accept it.
Is that a motion?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve and second. Roll call, please.
Mr. McGarry,
Yes.
Mr. Wolke,
Yes.
Mrs. Zerlich,
Yes.
Mr. Westmeyer,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Emmerich.
Yes.
Application is approved.
And I do have a question, even though we've already voted. So sorry, came up out in my head. Are there gonna be lights on this, like some of the long neck lights?
Based on the submittal, it doesn't appear so.
Okay.
And then I do have one more item for other.
You do have one more.
Yep. So I wanted, are we good with that?
Yes.
All right. We have a new zoning inspector. This is Andrew Burgai. He started last Monday. He's hitting the ground running, so I wanted to introduce him to you.
Well,
Welcome to the
Yes.
team, Andrew.
Thank you.
Now, Andrew, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've lived in Troy my whole life, with the exception of 8 months. I lived in the apartments behind Walmart. I live within a mile of where I live now. Prior to this, I was a, home inspector with MVP Inspectors,
Okay.
for about 5 years. So that's kind of what led me to.
Yeah, good experience,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, welcome aboard.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Austin, anything else?
That's all I got.
Okay. Anything else from the commission? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.